Hey guys, we're live today. I'm going to be sharing a little bit of my story here. First of all, I'm going to let some people join up to the stream. Make sure you guys can hear me okay. So if you guys can hear me, throw a thumbs up, throw a heart, so I know you guys can hear me. We got a couple people joining now. Also, if you could, please hit that share button so we can spread this message of hope out to people and invite some people to watch as well. I just want to make sure that you guys can hear me. So if you can hear me, go ahead, throw up a heart, throw up a like, whatever, so I know that you guys can hear me. Okay. All right, sound quality going okay? I see a couple thumbs up coming across the page, so that's always good. I'll go ahead and start talking then. Like I said, if you guys could just hit that share button and throw up some likes and hearts if you guys can hear me. And then I'll go ahead and start. So my story, it starts the same way a lot of people's story did. I grew up in a small town. I come from a very good family. In high school, I was your all-American kid. I ran track, I played football. I actually won a state title in track my sophomore year. Was an honor roll student. I scored in the 98th percentile for reading and the 99th percentile for writing on my ACT, believe it or not. Had so many opportunities. I had opportunities for track scholarships. Just so many good things going on in my life. You know, I thought I was living the American dream when I was growing up. My junior year of high school, first game of the year, I broke my arm playing football. And here, I'll let you guys see my little scar going on right there. You guys can see that nice little gnarly scar from where I broke my arm. And that led to a slow downward destruction of everything that I knew and loved that I just previously mentioned. I always tell people I wish I could tell you such a cool story about how I broke my arm. I wish I could tell you a story that, you know, I was running the ball and I scored the game-winning touchdown. I had to stiff arm somebody real quick. And, you know, I saved the day, but I didn't. It was like 2 minutes left on the clock. We were way ahead, and I was just running out the clock. It was just a freak injury. I fell on my arm. That was it, and that injury changed the rest of my life. So, after I broke my arm, they sent me to Bellevue Hospital. At Bellevue Hospital, they gave me an entire prescription of Vicodin painkillers. After that, they said, you know, your break is too bad. So they sent me to Toledo Hospital. At Toledo Hospital, they performed surgery on me. I got all of that stuff done, and they sent me home with a prescription of Percocet painkillers. So I'm now a 16-year-old kid, going on 17, with 2 prescriptions of incredibly powerful narcotic painkillers that no one told me were incredibly powerful narcotic painkillers. It was take 1 to 2 of these every 3 to 4 hours as needed. And I took them exactly how it said on my pill bottle. And a funny thing happened, and I thoroughly believe that this is how a lot of addiction arises. It's kind of a perfect storm. There are some people that are more predisposed to addiction than other people. I myself, I'm one of those people. I'm more predisposed to addiction. I have an addictive personality. To this day, I have an addictive personality. It's just that I've found ways to manifest that in a positive way. I'm addicted to working out. I'm addicted to MMA. I'm addicted to jiu-jitsu. I'm addicted to praying. I'm addicted to getting to know my higher power more. And I think most importantly for me is I'm addicted to helping people today. And I manifest that addictive personality in a healthy way. But previously, you know, it was sports, it was school, it was all these other things. And when I broke my arm, I had all those things taken away from me. So I'm taking these painkillers. And remember, I'm 17 years old at the time. So at this time, I broke my arm. I lost my whole junior year of football. Football was everything in my town. I come from Clyde, Ohio. We have a great football team. We always have. Football is everything to a 16, 17-year-old kid. My girlfriend broke up with me. I couldn't work out, and I couldn't hang out with my friends on the football team. So to me, it seemed like the end of the world. So that was kind of that perfect storm. I had a lot of sadness, a lot of anger, a lot of depression, things going on in my life. And I took these pills, and this incredibly crazy thing happened that probably a lot of you guys can relate to, is I took these pills, and everything was okay. I took them exactly as prescribed. I didn't snort them. I didn't chew them. I didn't do nothing. I just took them as prescribed. And I felt okay again. And over time, that started my addiction. And for those of you guys just tuning in, if you could do me a favor, if you could share this video and throw up a like, throw up a heart so we can reach more people and spread this message of hope, because this is going to be a very important message that I'm sharing tonight. I'm going to go in a little more depth than I normally do on these live videos. You guys are going to hear some things that you might not have heard before. You guys are going to hear some things that maybe somebody needs to hear tonight to save their life. So if you guys could share this video, I'd really appreciate it. Anyways, that's what started my addiction. And after that, it was battling with it on and on and off, on and off, on and off. And it actually went into my senior year of track. Like I said, I had won a state title in track my sophomore year of high school. I had a lot of opportunities to run track in college. And by the third meet of the year, I was ranked second in the state in the 400-meter dash. I was third in the state in the 200-meter dash, and I was sixth in the state in the 100-meter dash. You know, everything was going great. Well, I'm running this meet at the Clyde invite, my home invite, and I really wanted to win the MVP of this meet. And I ended up pulling my hamstring during the first event, during the 100-meter. And I was really upset about that. You know, it wasn't like a season-ending injury. I was just really upset. So I went home that night, and one of my friends, she had a sports injury too. And this is important to address as well. She had a sports injury too, and she had a script of Vicodin that she had never gotten filled. So I asked her, hey, can you fill this? Because in my mind, I'm in pain. I already have that addictive tendency, you know, that predisposition to addiction. In my mind, it's okay. These things are given by doctors for when you're injured. I just pulled my hamstring. It's okay for me to take these Vicodin. So I took the Vicodin, and I hung out with some people that I normally wouldn't have hung out with when I was in high school. And as fate would have it, I was taking the Vicodin, and they introduced me to cocaine for the first time. They said, you know, you're not feeling too good. You know, just try a little bump of this. And the problem with that is for so long when I was in school, I went through the DARE program, you know, and all the best intentions of the world for the DARE program, but the DARE program obviously didn't work. We have a whole generation of heroin addicts growing up. We have 60,000 people dying a year from heroin overdose. Obviously, DARE didn't work. And the problem with DARE is the use of scare tactics, because through the DARE program, I was taught that if I smoked weed, basically that I would die. Like, that weed was the worst thing in the entire world. And when I was 16, you know, I tried some weed, and guess what happened? I got really hungry and I ate a bunch of food. And that's all that happened. So in my mind, I was thinking, you know, you guys must be lying to me about this. I bet a lot of these other drugs aren't bad. You guys just don't want me to have a good time. And most importantly, is even with the DARE program, they didn't educate us about how dangerous and addictive these pills were. So anyways, I tried coke for the first time, and as fate would have it, I got drug tested on that Monday. Long story short, I got kicked off the track team. I was devastated. My senior year of high school, I missed over 50 days of school. And if you guys remember back from school, 9 weeks is 45 days. I missed 50 days of school. I missed over a quarter of the school year. A quarter of the school year. I still managed to graduate. My GPA was garbage. Somehow I still managed to get a partial ride academic scholarship just because I had really good ACT scores. Like I mentioned previously, I scored in the 98th percentile for reading and the 99th percentile for writing on my ACT. So I went to Bowling Green State University on a partial ride academic scholarship. And I went there with my roommates, and just like a lot of my classmates, I come from a small high school, probably 200-300 people in my graduating class. Out of those 200-300 people, I can name 30 to 40 people off the top of my head. If you gave me a little more time to write down a list, I'm sure I could name more, but off the top of my head, I can name about 30 to 40 people that either are or were addicted to heroin. In a small town, a very hardworking, very blue-collar, just overall good town. 30 to 40 people, that's over 20% of my graduating class is or was addicted to heroin. It's insane. So like a lot of people, we all started with the pills, like I had mentioned before. We didn't know how addictive they were. So my roommates, they did pills too, you know, so we're in college, we're having a good time, we're drinking, we're doing these pills and stuff. And I'll never forget the first time that I started to realize I had a problem. The first time was one of my roommates came out and he said, you know what, I'm not feeling too good today. Another one comes out and says, you know what, I'm not feeling too good either. And I'm sitting there thinking, man, I'm feeling like garbage too. What's going on? Is there a flu going on or something? And then suddenly it hit me. I realized that I was going through withdrawals for the first time. And I'd heard about these things from some of the older people that we bought pills from before. And we always kind of laughed it off, you know, and I laughed it off that very first time too. I called it a pill hangover. And, you know, I just laughed it up. Oh, it's just a pill hangover, you know, I'll be fine in a day or two. And little did I know, how much hell those withdrawals would put me through. Just so you guys know, my mom's driving. Say hi, Mom.
Hi.
My mom's driving. I'm coming back from the airport right now. I just got back in from Florida. Back to my story, though. Those withdrawals, for those that don't know, most of you guys probably do, the intense withdrawals when you're fully on pills, when you're fully on heroin, it feels like the worst flu of your life. Multiply that by 10. Now imagine going through that for 5 to 7 days. And that's why it's so hard to quit. That's why we need better access to rehab. That's why I work so hard to get people into rehab. And if you're watching this right now and you need to get someone in treatment, please don't hesitate to message me. Richie Weber on Facebook. My number's 419-603-8963. Call me at any time if you need to place somebody, if you need to get somebody help. But the thing is you can't just quit on your own. I would try to quit on my own so many different times, and I would get to day 2 or 3, and I would feel like I was going crazy. And I always tell people, imagine if you knew there was one medication, some NyQuil, some Theraflu, something you could take, an antibiotic, that would instantly make you feel better and take away all of your sickness. Well, that's what it is when you're trying to come off pills or come off of heroin. You know if you do just one pill, just one shot, whatever it may be, that you're going to feel better. And that's eventually how I got so desperate that I put a needle in my veins. Never in my life did I think I would wake up and say, you know what, I think today it would be a great day to stick a needle in my veins. No one wakes up and says that. No one, ever. It's a slow progression, and it always starts with the pills. And it comes from desperation, from not being able to get that fix, from the pills not working well enough, from not having access to rehab, from not having access to treatment. And that's where it all starts. So, my use progressed for a number of years after that. You know, I was doing heroin, I was selling a lot of pills, I was selling a lot of weed to support my heroin addiction, to support my pill habit. At one point, my pill habit was $300 a day. At one point, I was shooting over 3 grams of heroin a day. I went to jail multiple times. One story I'll tell you guys real quick. Used to be one of the most embarrassing things in my life, and I want you guys to know this, that you don't have to be embarrassed of your past, you don't have to be embarrassed of your addiction. I can talk about this today and you will see me laugh. Not that I don't take it serious, not that I don't take this epidemic seriously, but sometimes you have to be able to laugh at yourself and where you came from so that you're okay today, because I love the person that I am today. I love that God's blessed me and made me who I am. I love that I've been able to help so many people. Since I've been clean, I've gotten over 300 people into rehab. It's amazing to me how much God has touched my life and allowed me to touch the lives of others. So I'll tell you guys a quick story about when I thought I'd hit my bottom. I thought I'd hit my bottom. I had multiple warrants. I had multiple felonies. I was up for a couple days doing bath salts. And I was smoking crack. I was smoking weed. And, you know, I was shooting heroin in between to try and keep me down and not make me, like, you know, freak out and go crazy. Well, I was over at my friend's mom's house, and she didn't like needles and all that, so I wasn't doing my heroin there. And long story short, by the end of the night, we both thought we were trying to set each other up, that we were both cops and stuff. And so I was like, I need to get out of here. So I left her house, and I walk outside, and then I have 3 different realities going on in my head at this point. The first is, man, the cops are after me. They're going to come bust me at any minute, right? The second is, I'm just really freaking high, and I need to go home. The third is that the world's ending, because I walked outside. It was a small town, Fremont. There was no street lights on at like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was convinced at that moment that the world was ending. So I walk out to my car, and I try and drive my car, but the windows are all fogged and stuff, and I can't see it all. So I'm like, all right, I guess I'll just start walking. So I'm walking down the street, and in the back of my mind, I know that I'm just really high and I need to go home. So I grab my cell phone and I call my mom. I'm going to call my mom and just tell her, hey, I need to get picked up. And halfway through that call, I was like, oh my God, the cops are going to trace my call. So I whipped my phone. I threw it away. I didn't want them to trace my call. So now I'm walking down the street with no phone. And I start knocking on people's houses. And I'm asking them, I'm going, is it safe here? Can I come in? Is it safe in here? And at this point, I had hair down to here. My beard was out to here. I promise you guys, no one was going to answer that dang door. I definitely wouldn't. I looked like a crazy person. So after having no success with that, I eventually found my car again, and I start driving it through the city, probably doing 70, 80 miles an hour around turns and city roads. And I actually ran my car off the road. I thought that I'd flipped my car, but I found out months later I actually didn't. I was so high, I was so tired that I thought I'd flipped my car. I actually remember I crawled out the window. I guess I crawled out just because I wanted to. I thought it was upside down and I had to crawl out, but apparently I didn't. So I crawl out the window, I'm walking down the street, and here's one quick God moment right here. Was I came across a Kroger's, and remember, I think the world's ending at this point. So I come to a Kroger's, and I'm like, oh, a grocery store, like what a great place to spend the end of the world. So I walk to this Kroger's like I'm gonna go in there and just set up shop and just wait out the end of the world, and the door was locked. And luckily for me, I had that moment of clarity that like, I'm not gonna break this door down and break into this store. So thank God. Second God moment was I walked a little bit further and I found a Speedway gas station. Same thing, there was a truck with a set of keys in the ignition still running, and I thought to myself, you know, I can just take this truck and I can drive it home, and I can go home and I can just go to sleep. Thank God I didn't do that and catch a GTA, because I already had 5 felonies at this point. So I run into the gas station, I say, is it safe here? And everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy, because I am at this point, you know what I mean? And everybody's looking at me and they're like, well, it's as safe as you're gonna get in Fremont, Ohio at 2, 3 in the morning, dude. Like, take it or leave it. So I run over to the refrigerator section, you know, and I grab some orange juice. Like, this orange juice is gonna be my provisions for the end of the world, right? I take this orange juice, I run into the bathroom, I lock the door, I chug the orange juice, and I freaking pass out for the first time in like 3 days. I don't know exactly how long I was in there. I do remember someone came and knocked on the door and they said, hey man, are you okay? I said, yeah. I said, you need to come out. I said, no, I'm not going to. And they were like, well, we're gonna have to call the cops. I was like, do it, whatever. I'm not coming out, the world's ending, are you crazy? So, the cops come, right? They knock on the door, they say, you need to come out. I said, no. And they said, why? I said, well, to be honest, I think you guys are all a bunch of freaking aliens. I'm not coming out of there. Are you guys crazy? And so, long story short, they had to call the fire department to break down the door. They pulled me out. They arrested me. I guess I still had bath salts in my pockets, so I caught another felony. Who would have imagined bath salts, felonies? Huh. So they pulled me out, and they ran a story in my local newspaper about this whole incident. It was titled, Clyde Man Locks Himself in Speedway Bathroom. Now, if you guys had heard earlier, I went from being a state track champion, having my picture in the paper for track, for football, for all these different things, to having my picture in the paper for locking myself in the Speedway bathroom because I was so high that I thought the world was ending. That was embarrassing. That was shameful. And today I don't have to feel that way. Today I've been in the paper for so many different things, so many different times that I can't even keep track, and it's irrelevant. I've been on the news so many different times for so many positive things, it's irrelevant. The point that I'm trying to make is that God will use your testimony, God will use your story to impact others, to make a change for others. That's why He takes you through these things. So if you're struggling right now, I want you to know that your struggle can be your triumph. That I thoroughly believe that some of us have to walk down this hell so that we can walk out of that hell, walk back in it, and pull other people out. Because I think that we're the only ones that can do it. The people that have been through it, the people that have lived that hell, we are the ones that will come back with buckets of water to help other people. So, like I said, I thought that was my bottom. Believe it or not, I got out for a couple months and I was doing great. I had a job. I was working at Kalahari as a lifeguard. I actually loved it. I enjoyed it. I was working out. I even went to a couple meetings. I didn't do what I was supposed to, though. I didn't get a sponsor. I didn't work the 12 steps. I didn't get a home group. And eventually I became complacent within a couple months. I thought just lifting weights was okay. I didn't think that I had to work on myself, that I had to work on the issues that caused my addiction. So if you're early in your recovery, I cannot tell you enough how important it is to figure out the reasons why you continue to use. Do you have anxiety? Do you have depression? If you do, what are you doing to treat that? Are you working the steps? Are you seeing a counselor? Are you working out to deal with that? Because working out has been proven to be just as effective, if not more effective, than antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds. And all of us recovering addicts, we can't pop Xanax. I promise you that's a bad idea. So what I do to deal with my anxiety and my depression is that I work out. I work the steps. I go to meetings and I help other people, because when I help other people, it reminds me that my bullshit isn't really that important, that there's 20 other people that I could be talking to right now that have it so much worse than I do. And when I focus on them, I'm not focusing on my problems. I'm not stuck in my head. I don't have to put a needle in my veins to forget about, oh, this or that happened. So my final bottom, in between here, I overdosed a couple different times. Two of them stick out specifically. Like I said earlier, I'm not driving. My mom's driving. She's here with me. Bless her heart. She's a saint. She's amazing. I owe the world to her. Two of my different overdoses, my mom saved my life. The first one was after this period of clean time that I had before. I got complacent, and one day I thought, you know, I'm going to do some Xanax, and the Xanax led to Percocet 30s that day. The Percocet 30s led to some cocaine, and the cocaine led to some heroin, and I shot all of them, and I mixed it, and I don't know how I didn't die, but I lived, and I overdosed, and I got charged with, guess what? More felonies. After that, I was all stressed out, and, you know, I kept using, and a couple weeks later, I overdosed again. That time, I had to be hit with 2 different doses of Narcan, and I actually died. If it wasn't for my mom over here giving me CPR, I wouldn't be here living, I wouldn't be here breathing. And for anyone that says that Narcan's not worth it, that we shouldn't use Narcan, I calculated about how much money was spent on Narcan all the different times that I overdosed. It came out to about $300. So to keep me alive, my life was worth $300. Now, to me, I think my life's worth $300. I'm sure my mom thinks my life's worth $300. My grandma, my family. But in addition to that, for $300, I've helped over 300 addicts get into treatment and have a second chance at their life. I've done as much as I can to help people and make as much use of my second, my third, my fourth, my fifth chances that I've used, and I've made something of myself, and I'm living up to the potential that God always created me to do. So if you don't think Narcan's worth it, I hope you know that I'm living proof that Narcan is worth it. For $300, I've helped potentially save 300 lives. So, after all those overdoses, did I quit again? No, I didn't go to rehab. Didn't go to treatment. I couldn't stop on my own. And if you guys are just joining again, I ask that you please share this video. Please throw some likes up. I really am going in depth with my story tonight, and I really feel like there's somebody out there that needs to hear this message tonight, and I feel like that's why I'm doing it. So if you could share this, I hope that it reaches the person that needs it. Anyways, my final turning point. I had kept using for a couple more months. I had warrants. I was on the run. I was looking at years and years in prison for all my different felonies. And November 6, 2014, my mom finally put her foot down. She said, you have a $5,000 signature bond. If you don't turn yourself in, I'm going to have to pay $5,000 more for you. You've already basically bankrupted me. And I realized, God moment, right? I'm using, and for once in my life, I wasn't completely selfish. And I knew she was serious most of all. She gave me that tough love for the first time in a long time. And I said, all right, I'll go turn myself into jail so you don't have to pay this $5,000 signature bond. So November 6, 2014, that's when I turned myself into jail, and that is my clean date. November 6th of 2017, I will have 3 years clean. Can you believe that? I used to think it was amazing at 3 days. When I hit 3 months, my mind was literally like, oh my God, like I can't believe I have 3 months clean. Especially the way that my life started to change. So November 6, 2014, let me tell you the turning moment, because it wasn't just turning myself in that got me clean. It wasn't just going to jail that got me clean. It was so much more than that. My mom came to visit me about 2 days later after I'd turned myself in, like she always did. And she looked at me, she said, Richie, I have some bad news. And I said, what's that? And she said, Richie, your friend Bryce, he overdosed and he died. And he actually died the day I turned myself into jail. My clean date is the same day that Bryce died. And I'll never forget, my mom looked at me and she had tears in her eyes, and she said, I thought about how that could have been you so many different times. I thought about how that could have been you, dead on my bathroom floor. And something about that hit me. It made it real. And I walked back to my jail cell. And I said that prayer that I had said so many different times before, that probably a lot of you guys have said, whether you're in jail, whether you're detoxing, whether you're sick, or whether you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. I said, God, please take this away from me. I'll do whatever it takes. I'll do anything. Except this time I meant it with every bone in my body and every fiber in my being. I meant this prayer, and I lived this prayer, and I've tried to live this prayer every single day since I've gotten clean. I've tried to live this prayer, is that I will do whatever it takes to stay clean. And for me, I was in jail for about a month after that. I got out. I still had the cravings. I still wanted to get high. My mind kept telling me, get high, get high, get high. But inside my soul, I knew that if I did, that I would die. And that was a daily struggle. The demon on this shoulder, the angel on this shoulder, struggling with this because I wanted nothing more in my life than to get clean. But at the same time, I have all these issues. I'm facing 5 years in prison, potentially. I'm trying to stay clean. I'm trying to not use. I'm trying to find myself. I'm so embarrassed, so broken down from, being in the paper for locking myself in the Speedway bathroom, for being in everyone's eyes a complete failure. Nobody that I hung out with in high school wanted anything to do with me, and I honestly can't blame them at all. That was one of my biggest problems when I would try and get clean, is that none of my old friends wanted to hang out with me. And when I hung out with my using friends, can you guys guess what would happen? Eventually I'd get high. So, what I did to get through that period of time is I would go to the gym at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I would lift until I couldn't lift anymore. I would run until I couldn't run anymore. Sometimes I would cry, honestly. Sometimes I would cry because I wanted to get high that bad and I hated myself for it. But after that I would pray, and guess what would happen after I would lift, run, pray, sometimes cry? That obsession was taken away, if only for that day. Just for today was real to me at that point. One day at a time saved my life. So that went on for a couple months, and for those that are wondering, I can honestly say that I haven't had any cravings like that in over a year. God can and will, your higher power can and will take away that obsession to use. If you work the steps, if you pray, meditate, whatever your view of it is, if you find something to occupy your time, and you give your mind a chance to heal, it's usually 6 months to a year. If you put in the work, you will not have to battle with that obsession anymore. Until then, take it one day at a time, because it does get better, and just remind yourself of that every day, that it does get better. I promise you that it does get better. You don't have to fight with that the rest of your life. So, like I said, I'm facing 5 years in prison at this time. And, I'll never forget one day I'm driving around with my mom like I am right now, sitting in the passenger seat, and I'm just so happy with my life at this point. I have a couple months clean again, and I'm going to meetings. I have a sponsor. I have a home group. I'm working the steps. I'm working out. I'm feeling good about myself. My mom even said, I feel like I have my son back again. She could see the difference. And I said a prayer, and I said, God, just please don't take this away from me. Don't take this away from me. I'm happy. And I heard him answer. He said, this won't be taken from you. So I go to court in about 2 weeks, and the prosecutor's trying to give me 5 years in prison. My sponsor went with me. And what the judge did is, I wanted to be on probation. I thought that if I was on probation that I could keep going to meetings, keep working out, doing what I'm supposed to do, and I'd be fine. What the judge did is he sentenced me to Crossways, which is a 4 to 5 month. Basically, it's like prison rehab, is basically what it is. It's not the best rehab in the world by any means. It's better than prison, obviously. But he sentenced me to that, and at first I was like, man, God, you told me you weren't going to take this from me. But the funny thing about God is he answers prayers in very mysterious ways. When I said, please don't take this away from me, he didn't lie when he said he wouldn't. What he wasn't going to take away was my clean time. What he wasn't going to take away was my happiness. What he wasn't going to take away was my purpose to live again. And that's what he meant when I said, this won't be taken away from you. And he hasn't. It's only gotten better since then. So I was in Crossways for a couple months. I really didn't learn much from the program, but what I did do is continue to work on myself the way that I knew how. I did pretty much the most epic 4th step of all time. I had so much time to take my inventory. I did an incredible 4th step. I learned a lot about myself. I did a lot of prayer. I read a lot of books. I meditated, and I worked out a lot. I lost 20, 30 pounds while I was in there. Because everybody knows when you first get clean, you like to eat, and you kind of put on a little bit of weight, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, I worked out. I got in shape. I felt great about myself. While I was there, I got a job at Evergreen Plastics. I was working, and I met this girl there. Her name was Kayla, and I thought she was amazing, and she told me that, she had been clean for 2 years. And I will touch on the Kayla thing later. I just want to throw in that I met this girl and I thought she was amazing. And I still think she's amazing to this day, but I will touch on this again later. So I get out of Crossways, everything's going great, and about 2 months after I was out of Crossways, I get really bad news. I find out that one of my best friends, Charles Buchanan, he overdosed and he died from heroin. And Charles was a mixed martial arts fighter. Charles was a state wrestler. He was another person just like us, a really good person with a really bad problem. And I took that to heart. That was really hard. That was the first true test of my sobriety since I had gotten clean. It was, how am I going to deal with this situation? Because for so long, I always dealt with my problems. I'm going to get high, I'm going to get high, I'm going to get high. So that night I went to a meeting. That night I went and worked out, and I made it through it. And my solution to this overall was that I was going to get punched in the face and do a fight in honor of Charles. That was how I was going to deal with it. And I did. A couple months later, I trained for a couple months. A couple months later, I took my first fight. And, I went out there and I fought this dude and I won in 38 seconds. And I was thinking, wow, I'm kind of good at this thing. And before I could even think that, they shoved a microphone in my face and they said, who do you want to thank? And it was at that time that I first went public with my story. And I think this is so important. Those of us that are comfortable, those of us that are strong enough, that we advocate, that we go public with our stories so that we share hope, that we show people that we're not just a bunch of junkies, we're good people with a bad problem. So he shoves the microphone in my face and he says, who do you want to thank? And I told the whole entire crowd that I did this fight in honor of my best friend, Charles Buchanan, that he overdosed on heroin and he died, but he was a good person with a bad problem. And then I told the whole crowd that I was a recovering heroin addict, that I was here, that I was living, that I was breathing, and that not only is recovery possible, but all things are possible through recovery, and I just proved it by coming out and winning an MMA fight. There was about 700 people in the crowd. They all went crazy. They all started applauding, and it was at that moment I realized I had a purpose. Because for so long when I would sit in those jail cells, I felt like I had no purpose. I felt like I had no reason to live. I felt like I was a failure, and it was at that moment I started to see the plan that God had for me all this time. After that, I continued to do MMA. I'm 4-1 today in MMA. I've won a title, I've won a belt, I've done a lot of incredibly crazy things like that, and from the mixed martial arts fighting is how I started my nonprofit. It's called Fight for Recovery. It started out as a meeting for young people, because when I first came into, the traditional 12-step programs, it was a lot of older people, and I'm like 22, 23 years old at the time, and I had a hard time, just hanging out with them, and I needed friends. Like I mentioned before, I couldn't hang out with my friends from high school. They didn't want nothing to do with me. I obviously couldn't hang out with my using friends because I would get high. So I started the meeting. It was supposed to be like a young people's meeting, and it started out with like 3 people, and today we have all the way up to like 50 people come to this meeting. And keep in mind that I live in a town of about 5,000-6,000 people, so that's pretty significant to get 50 young people in a meeting from my area. It's amazing, and I love it, and we've been so blessed. We do all kinds of great different events, like open mic night. We had open mic night, and there was more people standing outside the coffee shop smoking a cigarette than there was standing outside the bars on a Friday night. And normally in a small town, that's what you normally think that there is to do on a Friday night, is just go to the bar, and it's great that we have an alternative to that. So the Fight for Recovery thing, that's been huge to me. Another thing that we do is we help get people into rehab. We'll drive people to rehab. We raise money for positive sober events, like we'll go bowling. We'll just try and have a blast in recovery, man, because when I first got clean, I thought everything was going to be boring and everything was going to suck, and I couldn't be further from the truth, man. I've had more fun in recovery than I've ever had in my life. So not to bum the moment a little bit, but I got to go back to Kayla and touch on this too, because this impacted me significantly. And like I mentioned, that I had met that girl and I thought she was amazing. I still think she's amazing to this day. I will always love that woman. But when I first met Kayla, she told me she'd been clean for 2 years, and she had been from heroin, but not from pills, not from crack, not from other stuff. She had been 2 weeks clean, and I was about 7 months, and I didn't know that. So I got with her, and we were great together. We really clicked, we really vibed. You guys know, like they say, time flies when you're having fun. The first time that I hung out with her, it was like time stood still, man. It was crazy. Like, it went so slow, and we just talked so much, and it was incredible. And we had a really good relationship, but then there were certain aspects that weren't so good because of the difference in our clean time. I mean, I was under a year clean too. And what it eventually boiled down to was that she kept relapsing. I couldn't get her into the rooms with me. I couldn't get her to get a sponsor. I couldn't get her to work for issues for herself, because I can't be her sponsor. I can't be her higher power. She had to take that initiative herself, and she unfortunately never did. So she would relapse. I would kick her out for a day or two, and then I'd always let her come back, and that happened like 5 different times, and eventually came to a point that I had to make a decision. It's either going to be me and her, or it's going to be her. And my greatest fear in the world was that she was going to overdose and that she was going to die. And last year she did. That happened. So that happened. She died last year. And that was really hard for me to get through. So, but I got through it. And every day was a struggle. I had a fight coming up. I remember that I would drive to practice. I would get to practice and I would be fine at practice. And then as soon as I would get in the parking lot, I would just start bawling. I would lose it. It'd be the same thing with meetings. But I got through it because I had a really great support system. I had my sponsor, I had meetings, I had so many people counting on me and looking to me to help, that shooting dope was never an option. I can honestly say that when Kayla died, not one time did it go through my mind that I thought it would be a good idea to shoot dope. Not once. It was just, how am I going to make it through this? And I just missed her, man. I still miss her so much. But, you know, that showed me that literally I can get through anything clean and sober. There's no excuse for me to use today. There's absolutely none. I thoroughly believe that once you get over a year, 2-year mark, that you can't use your disease as an excuse to relapse. At that point, it's your choice to relapse. It's your choice to stop working a program. It's your choice to stop reaching out to people. Because when you reach out to people, like I just said, it doesn't become about you. You take that selfishness away. Even though I was hurting more than I'd ever hurt in my life, it was not an option for me to go out and relapse because I had so many people counting on me. So many people. It was not an option for me to relapse. And I know for a fact that if I didn't start Fight for Recovery, if I didn't have so many people counting on me, when Kayla died, I probably would have relapsed. And that's why I think the 12th step is so important, to go out and help the still sick and suffering. That's why it's so important. That's why it's everything to me, honestly. You know, I'm so blessed that, you know, I work in a rehab in Bloomville. I'm a recovery coach. I'm the head recovery coach there. And I love it. Every single day I get to work with people and help them. Every single day. I also work at a sober living house. I help get people into rehab. I drive people to rehab. Like, my whole life is based around recovery. My whole life is based on the hell that I went through. It all happened for a reason so that I can do the things that I do today. And I wake up every day and I go to work and I'm happy to go there. I can't explain, like, how blessed I feel, how much God has helped me just to live a great life. And as soon as I started to turn my will over to God, everything changed for me. Everything really did. It's been incredible. I mean, it's been a lot of ups and downs. Obviously, you know, I've lost 7 friends since I've gotten clean now. 7 people in less than 3 years I've lost. And it's hard, but it makes me want to fight more. I'm tired of seeing my friends die. That's why I started Fight for Recovery. I am tired of seeing my friends die. I'm tired of hearing about overdoses on the news. I'm tired of seeing that more people are going to die this year of overdose than died in the whole entire Vietnam War. Let that sink in for a minute. More American lives are going to be lost this year than in the whole Vietnam War, and that's one of the deadliest conflicts in all of U.S. history. That's how serious this is. That's why we need to step our game up. That's why we need more access to affordable treatment and affordable rehab. And like I said before, if you or a loved one are suffering and need help, please message me. My name on Facebook is Richie Weber. Weber with 2 B's. RichieWebber. Or you can call me. Message me on Facebook. I will help you get into treatment. I will help your loved one, because that's what we need to do. We need better access to treatment, and then we need some more peer support when they get out, you know? It's the concept of one addict or one alcoholic helping another addict or another alcoholic, and that's what's going to change this epidemic. That's where we're going to make a difference. So with that, I'm going to close and say that, you know, there's still so many different things that I haven't mentioned, honestly. You know, I just don't want to, like, make this thing go on forever, but there's just so many blessings, I can't even count them. Like, there's things that have happened that I never thought would have happened. I've sat on panels with judges, with lawyers, with sheriffs, with freaking senators. And, you know, I always think, like, the only time I ever saw the judge before was when he was about to send me to jail or prison. That's the only time I saw him before, and now we're on a first-name basis. How crazy is that? I meet with senators, I meet with sheriffs. Like, it's incredible how much my life has changed as soon as I let God into it. It's incredible. And for anybody that's struggling, I just want you to know that not only is recovery possible, but all things are possible through recovery. Literally, it really is. You can live an amazing life still. It's never too late to find your purpose and to find your passion and to just live. So please reach out to somebody. Reach out to me. Get to a meeting or something. Your life is so precious. There's so many people that care about you that you don't even know. And I mean, if you didn't hear it today, if nobody told you that they love you today, I love you. Know that I love you. Your life is worth it. Adam, message me, man. I'm about to end this video. Message me. And anybody else on here, I haven't had a chance to read the comments. Anybody on here that's struggling, send me a message. All right? So I'm going to end the video now. If you haven't already, please share this video. Please throw a like up. Add me on Facebook. Follow my page. It's Richie Weber on Facebook. RichieWebber. Follow me on Facebook. Check out the Fight for Recovery page. There's plenty of help out there, and I want to do my best to do that. So I love you guys so much, and I'm out. Peace.